Welcome to Transmission Podcast. I'm your host, Cecilia Lynn Jacobs. For the next little while, we invite you to speculate on the possibility of life on Proxima b, the closest known planet outside of our solar system that has the potential to support life. In each episode, we question what would happen if we suddenly knew we were no longer alone in the universe, and what that would mean for humanity to become an interstellar civilization. Please, stay close. Than just ours here on Earth, how would we reshape our culture and religion? Depending on your relationship with the spiritual, it might not be as dramatic as you think. We spoke to Pippa Goldschmidt, a writer in Edinburgh who has previously worked in astronomy and space policy, about what she thought.
In some ways, we've been anticipating this for hundreds of years. People first started seriously thinking about sort of other people on planets like hundreds of years ago and writing about it. So in some ways, maybe we've been mentally preparing ourselves for that. But of course, there's a difference between knowing something might be theoretically true and actually having the sort of reality of it, the actuality. If you think that you have a sort of direct relationship with God, and God is this like all-encompassing being, then all of a sudden, perhaps you don't have such a direct relationship. Perhaps God has got a whole host of other sort of beings that God has to look after. So what does that mean for your relationship? And then what does that mean for your relationship with each other too, for the sort of community on Earth that is linked through a set of joint beliefs? Are those beliefs going to be impacted in different ways? And so finally, sort of culturally, I can imagine it'd be a very sort of enriching experience. I can imagine that we try and anticipate what we might think if we come into contact with extraterrestrial intelligence, but anticipation is never the same as reality. So I can imagine that there's going to be a whole set of new emotions and new artistic responses to those emotions, both individually and collectively. And because it would be such a sort of global phenomenon, perhaps it could help break down barriers between people. I don't know, sort of culturally and religiously and politically, or perhaps it would simply reinforce barriers.
Science is sensitive to these interwoven thoughts about our relationship to the divine.
This obviously becomes an issue that any discovery, any theorizing along these lines certainly impacts people on issues that are very closely held.
That's Dr. Joel Meyers at the Canadian Institute for Theoretical Astrophysics.
There's a reason that there was a backlash to Darwin, and it's not because people had these great theories of how finches had this arrangement of beaks before Darwin came along. It was that it struck a nerve with religion. It forced a question that was previously a safe haven for religion, that humans were special. And the discovery of an alien civilization certainly would impact on that. It would weigh heavily on that discussion. There still remain, even in the modern society, there remains a special place for humanity with an air of spirituality to it. And the existence of another civilization forces you to re-examine that special nature that is typically assigned to humanity on Earth, by providing another example of a civilization that has, in the broader sense, humanity, has a consciousness, are clearly agents of their own making, and their own control. So yeah, certainly it has very broad impacts for how people perceive themselves, how people fit into the grander scale of the universe. And as I said in my own research, I have been forced to confront these questions. It's sort of difficult to avoid when you're thinking about times when, before humans existed, before planets existed, before stars existed, before the matter that we think about in a typical sense existed. It's hard to avoid the conclusion that there was not a special creation event for humanity in that story. It does leave open the possibility that the whole thing was set in motion by a higher power. I personally don't subscribe to that view, but it does leave open that possibility. But again, anytime there's a discovery that sort of forces some focus on this question, there's going to be some friction because people hold these beliefs very dearly.
Science has already disrupted this notion that humans are somehow special, and Seth Shostak, senior scientist at SETI, actually thinks that things might not change that much.
Well, nobody really knows because it's never happened before, but a lot of people have given their opinions, including quite a few theologians. There have even been some discussion, there's been some discussion at conferences about this. Would it affect religions in some dramatic way that, well, now that we know that there are aliens out there, I don't believe in my religion anymore? I don't think that would happen. And in fact, they've actually done inquiries with theologians of the atomist religions in any case, so Christianity, Judaism, Islam, and asked them, well, how would this work? I mean, would that be the end of religion? And none of them seemed to think that it would be the end of religion by any means. And in fact, a well-known astronomer, Brother Guy Consolmagno, who's with the Vatican Observatory, says, look, the Catholic Church has been able to handle Galileo and Darwin. We can certainly handle a few aliens. So that was kind of his comment on it all. And I don't know that in Judaism, nobody seems to care about aliens. It doesn't seem to be part of the doctrine. So I don't think that major religions would actually suddenly become irrelevant at all. But it is true that fundamentalists might have a problem because aliens are not in the Bible. So they would say, look, this is not in the Bible, and it's probably not true. They're not there. So that would lead to a bit of discussion.
Dr. Christine Corbett Moran at Caltech points out that while we have yet to confirm alien life, many already believe that it is out there and it hasn't caused much of a disruption yet. She's more interested in how our perceptions of a higher power might differ if we were in another star system than our own.
There is this element where some religions would be like, how do we interpret the fact that life was created in multiple places in the universe? But most scientists and a lot of people already believe that life exists in a lot of places in the universe. Seeing that validated wouldn't necessarily change a lot of beliefs. Of course, it depends on the religion. I don't think atheists would be that affected per se. But who knows, in that probably if they're so similar to us, they have their own religions as well. So I think there would be a curiosity as to their beliefs and the variety that they have. And it would be very interesting to see whether there's been a convergence in these different types of like Eastern and Western divisions of philosophies that we have sometimes. And, monotheism, polytheism, deism and attachment to nature and that sort of stuff. So I think, studies of religion would have a field day here to see, here you found all these beings that are so similar to us, but they grew up elsewhere. What does that mean for their religion? How would religion be affected if they had two suns? If it was really obvious that they already weren't the center of the universe from their cosmology, from their viewpoint. So we thought for a long time, humans thought that the Earth was the center of the universe just based on what we could see out. So what if they lived in a place where it was obvious from the get-go that they weren't the center of the universe? Or what if, they evolved in a place where they can't even see the stars because they have clouds above them all the time or something like that? So I think that, seeing these different places where cosmology can affect the evolution of religion, or maybe everything's identical, but still they would have maybe these same classes of religions. So I think there would be a lot of crosstalk. And if you could communicate, probably even some fusion, these new style religions, combining things. You'd have cults, of course, and that sort of stuff. So I think there would be turmoil, but already we have such a great diversity of religions on the planet, and that doesn't necessarily mean that the white Catholic Christian is interested in communicating with someone of a different belief set elsewhere on the planet. Like, there's so much diversity just on our planet that we don't even explore. That doesn't seem to affect people's beliefs when they wake up, as whatever religion that they are. They don't say, oh, well, there's so many other different ideas. I should be thinking about all those today. They fundamentally believe that their religion is the way to be, and they understand there are others. And I think that would be the same with aliens. It would just be a lot of people would be interested in their evolution of their religious traditions and similarities and differences, and trying to conclude from there. And I mean, it already is the case that we're all exposed to many different religions, and throwing a few more in the mix doesn't necessarily change the equation too much. I think, of course, there might be some religions that really posit that, the cradle of life is on Earth, and they'd have to revise their opinions. But there were many religions that posited that the Earth was the center of the universe, and it's not, and had to revise their opinions. Evolution, revise your opinions. So I think religions have been very good in some sense for being thousands of years old at points and adapting to new information. I think they would adapt as well to this new information, and kind of incorporate it in their fundamental beliefs. But after that, I don't think things would change too much, but who knows?
Pete Worden from Breakthrough Initiatives does think that it would lead to a profound change.
Well, and it's, I'm a scientist, not a philosopher. And on the other hand, I think the essence of most philosophy, including religious philosophy, is that, trying to understand one's place in the universe, and the existence of other intelligent entities that we now begin to know something about is a profound change to that. And it's, I think that it would redirect the course of human history, even if there isn't much more than just the fact of. But the fact of is a significant one. I think that the basic philosophy is we're not alone.
It's a really good question. How would we be affected by the detection of a signal that indicated that there was intelligent life on another world? There's been a lot of speculation about this. I think at the beginning of SETI, it was proposed that this would just be an earth-shattering revelation, and that it would kind of change everything, that not only would it be one of the biggest scientific discoveries ever, but it would spark a transformation in human consciousness. So that idea, kind of 50 years ago or thereabouts, has perpetuated itself to the present day.
That's Dr. Kathryn Denning from York University, who helped us synthesize these ideas.
I think that as time has gone by, and as we've understood more and more about the probability of there being other intelligent life out there, so all the playing through of the variables of the Drake equation, all the different kinds of work that's been done, extrasolar planets, all of those things, I think those who believe in the scientific worldview most probably already think that it's a foregone conclusion that there is some kind of intelligent life out there, and the question is just, will we ever meet it or not? And will our signals, pass in time and space? So to that extent, I think among that community, the transformation has already mostly occurred. If we actually get the signal, yeah, it'll be big news. But I think a lot of the mental adjustment has already taken place. And that's why I think now the additional efforts in searching and whether it's extrasolar planets or METI or all of the different dimensions to it, I think that's one of the reasons why that has all ramped up.
When we return, how might a mission be shaped by spirituality? Stay close. Welcome back. In this episode of Transmission Podcast, we're talking about religious doctrine in a shared universe. We asked Dr. Duncan Forgan at University St Andrews if sentience in an extraterrestrial species would challenge human divinity.
The Catholic Church is very interested in this. I think from a point of view of, what do we do to our doctrine and how do we interpret the Bible if there are